Nintendo has created games that are treasured as classics. Even in the modern day, they've delivered some unforgettable experiences to their fans. A legacy of gaming excellence like this deserves a look back at some of the titles that started it all. I'm Will from Game Rant, and today we're talking about the best Nintendo games from every year in the 80s. 1980, Game & Watch, Fireman. In 1980, Nintendo was better known for playing cards than video games. They decided to branch out into novelties and gadgets in the 70s, but by 1980 had released the Game & Watch handhelds. These games aren't much by modern standards, but for the time they were revolutionary. Compared to the other handheld games of the time, the gameplay offered some amount of challenge and the graphics looked pretty good. For something that was considered a novelty item, it sure set the stage for what was to come. 1981, Donkey Kong. Here's the game that I can assume most people think of when classic Nintendo games come into discussion. Donkey Kong is an arcade classic that turned Shigeru Miyamoto into a household name. The game setup is simple. The damsel Pauline has been kidnapped by Donkey Kong and you have to save her. The gameplay is solid and worked well in arcades and later console releases. This game also introduced the character that would become synonymous with Nintendo, Mario. 1982, Donkey Kong Jr. Playing off of the success of its predecessor, Donkey Kong Jr. has you take control of the titular Kong to save Donkey Kong Sr. Mario also makes a return, but as the villain this time, being the one who locked up his foe from the last game. The gameplay is slightly different, as Donkey Kong Jr. climbs on vines and grabs items to help free his father. Donkey Kong Jr. doesn't have quite the reputation the first game has, but is still a landmark in Nintendo history. 1983. Mario Bros. In 1983, Mario finally got a game with his name in the title. The game introduces elements of Mario games that would be mainstays well into the modern day. Koopas, POW blocks, power-ups, even Mario's brother Luigi came from this game. Mario Brothers also officially made the brothers plumbers and gave them the ability to move through pipes. 1984. Excitebike. With plenty of arcade success, Nintendo decided to break into the home console market with the Famicom in 1983. In 1984, Namco and Hudson Soft became the first third-party supporters of the console, and from there, things were rolling. Also in that year, Excitebike came to the Famicom in Japan. This game allowed players to race and compete for the Excitebike Championship, and even design their own racecourses. It would later release on the American NES, with one other cornerstone of gaming. 1985, Super Mario Bros. It's hard to truly describe Super Mario Bros. Without restating what so many others have already said. This game pioneered platforming games as we know them, with a side-scrolling engine borrowed from Excitebike. A moving screen gave the player a bigger feeling of exploration and excitement as new parts of the level came and went. The size of the game was also expansive for the time, with 8 worlds of 4 levels each. Even as a launch title, this game made its mark on gaming history. 1986. Metroid. Platformers up to this point only allowed the player to move to the right. Even Super Mario Bros. Had its limitations, as once something went off screen to the left, it was gone forever. Metroid changed the game by allowing players a full range of motion in all directions. This game brought a greater sense of exploration to the table, as players were forced to explore every corner of the map for items. It even helped to define a genre, as Metroidvanias are still being made and enjoyed today. 1987. The Legend of Zelda. The Legend of Zelda is a game so big, it's hard not to say it with a bit of wonder. With advances to the audio and graphical technology used in consoles, The Legend of Zelda was able to deliver a huge world for people to explore. The music was dynamic, especially for the time. The enemies and environments were more varied, and there was a great sense of progression as each weapon and item brought you closer and closer to victory. The adventure of finding the pieces of the Triforce and defeating Ganon was an experience that made the series a gaming hallmark. 1988. Super Mario Bros. 3. In 1988, Nintendo was struggling to create sequels that lived up to the quality of the original. Super Mario Bros. 3 managed to break past that trend and become a definitive title for Nintendo. The worlds became bigger and more varied. There were more power-ups for Mario and Luigi to use. It even played into multiplayer really well, as both players were able to compete to see who could complete a level first. Super Mario Bros. 3 wouldn't arrive in the West until 1989, but it made a huge impact once it did. 1989, Tetris. Tetris is a simple game of stacking blocks to survive as long as you can. This game had appeared on a wide variety of home consoles coming into 1989, however, it found a new life on the Nintendo Game Boy. The game suited a portable system perfectly, as people were able to take their games on the go. The simple gameplay made it accessible and easy to play casually. It offered a variety of difficulty modes and even two-player modes with a link cable. Tetris was the perfect game to bring an end to the 80s. That was our list of the best Nintendo games from every year in the 80s. For more games and articles like this, remember to drop by GameRant.com. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you next time.